to start this webinar and to kick off the webinar series from our Cycling Innovation Network. My name is Till Kramer. I am the Managing Director of Bike Business Hub, a consultancy in recruitment and investor matchmaking in the bike branch. Today, my hat here is to be the chairman of the Cycling Innovation Network, one of the latest, one of the youngest working groups within Cycling Industries Europe. In Cycling Innovation Network, we cover basically everything related to innovation in the bicycle industry. And one of our core elements of our work is spotlighting innovative activities in the cycling industry. And today's topic, the ecosystem, the cargo bike ecosystem, is something where CIE and CIN are really behind and is really important for the whole industry, because it's a source for great innovation. We have 4 excellent speakers today, and they will showcase innovation or different aspects of innovation in the area of services, of infrastructure, of manufacturing. And we will see 10 to 15-minute presentations, followed by a Q&A sessions. Before we start, and before I give the word to the moderator today, I would just like to get you familiar with some ground rules, which always have been very useful in these webinars. Please mute yourself, keep yourself muted within the meeting. If you want, you can rename yourself and put your full name on, if you want also the company name in there, but it's not necessary. There will not be direct question and answer, as we have a record number, and this is something I'm really impressed by, and thank you for so many subscriptions. We had over 260 registrations, which is a record for Cycling Innovation Network, and I just see we are around 100 members. Let's see if we can maybe crack the 100. I'm sure we will. Maybe some people come a few minutes later. So I'm very happy for this outcome. And yeah, so you can put your questions. While you have your questions, you can put them in the chat. We will do, after the presentations, we do a little summary and a little wrap up, and then we do have time for question and answer. And sometimes it's better to just spontaneously ask in the chat. We will take record of them, and then Anna, our moderator, will ask the questions to the end, so that the 4 people we have here, our 4 guests, can then comment on that. I would like to introduce now, give the word to Anna Buchmann. Anna is the founder of Noka Mobility, a consultancy firm in the bicycle industry. And Anna, I think before you will present the speakers, you can give us some news about your latest project, a very nice project, which is the European Bicycle Guide. So please introduce yourself and let us know about your project.
Awesome. Thank you for that intro, Till. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Noka Mobility, and we are building software for more efficient, sustainable, and resilient procurement and micromobility. And as Till already mentioned, we launched the European Bicycle Guide yesterday. It's a digital company directory for the cycling industry in Europe. When companies sign up, they can directly search for, find, and connect with different manufacturers, component suppliers, OEMs, distributors, and retailers based in Europe. And we think it's a very, very exciting solution to drive connection and also the localization of supply chains to make our industry a little bit more resilient. Well, this is a solution for the entire industry. Most of our efforts at NOCA so far have concentrated on the cargo bike segment. And we're a massive believer in the huge market opportunity in the sector. And I actually wanted to kick off, share a few numbers with you that I believe just show just how big that market opportunity is. So here, I hope you can see my screen. When we look at different market reports, the average global market size of the cargo bike sector is $5 billion by 2030. That's massive. Now, looking at the European cargo bike market, this segment grows annually by at least 50% based on the results of the European Cargo Bike Industry Survey done by CIE and Cargo Bike Jetzt. So this segment really is just getting started, and CIE actually believes that more than 2 million cargo bikes will be sold in Europe by 2030. Now, as one of the biggest markets, Germany is leading this growth. A survey commissioned by the Federal Ministry of Transportation and Digital Infrastructure, published in the Fahrradmonitor Deutschland, actually suggests that in this market alone, there are roughly 900,000 potential buyers looking to buy a cargo bike in the next few years. Now, in order to unlock this market opportunity, cargo bikes have to become a safe, convenient, and feasible alternative to the car or the van in the city. And to achieve that, there's a lot of innovation happening in the cargo bike space across several dimensions. So today, I am super excited to give you 4 guest speakers from the cargo bike industry, sharing their journey and innovation. We have Pavel, the co-founder of Urbisbike, focusing on innovation manufacturing. Then Renaud, co-founder of Urbike, will speak about changing mindsets to increase the adoption of cycle logistics. Jaron, co-founder of Cargoroo, will outline his success story and how shared cargo bikes can increase access and convenience. And finally, Thomas, the regional key account manager from Jobrad, uses leasing as an example to show how cargo bikes are not just a sustainable, but also an affordable mode of transport. Before we get started, let me just remind you of what Till already said. Please pop your questions into the chat. If you have a specific question for a speaker, make sure to also name the speaker, and we will get to them at the end of the presentations. Now, let me unstop and let's get started. Production is obviously the first stop for every cargo bike, and I'm really excited to introduce Pavel from Urbisbike. As an EU-made manufacturer, Urbis designs, welds, paints, and assembles cargo bikes to order in Poland. And I have the highest respect for Pavel and his team as he's building a hardware business. And that's really no joke and comes with a lot of challenges in itself. So Pavel, would you please share with us your journey, what you've achieved, and how you keep innovating in this space?
Right. Let me just start with sharing the presentation to review. Just tell me whether you can see the presentation or not. Right. Well, hello. I would like to thank you for having me here. It is a wonderful opportunity to tell you why and how we managed to create an electric cargo bicycle from scratch here in Poland, which is a kind of a weird story, to be honest. We had a big amount, more time, but let's get straight. Let me start by telling you why we did it. Big words, you might have heard them too often recently. Intergeneration equality, shifting our daily habits beyond our comfort zone. Sustainable development, it's something about apprehending the urban space is for all of us and the scarce resources that we use to produce cars, whether diesel or electric cars. I think this is something that I want to share with you. We believe in a kind of creative destruction process. We love to make things from the very beginning, and we see to see how they grow. I guess this is something that defines us. Obviously, we could assume that existing products in the EU could be transposed into the Polish market, but somehow for years they have not done any impact. And the bike has to be adapted to local specifics, to be honest, including the infrastructure and the weather conditions. You can look at the slides, and I will be telling you a quick story how it became a real thing and a real-time job as well. So on the 23rd March 2020, the Polish government set the COVID restrictions. So everything stopped. But just for a moment, Polish people, we love to hustle. So already in April, I had my first thoughts about the cargo bicycles. And I was lucky enough to have some amazing people around me. And we managed to set up a company in December. That the same year, in February next year, we started designing. And by autumn, we had our first cargo bicycles put on its wheels. So it was a really, really brief and quick decision. So by late February, we started with design. You already know it, with measurements, ideas implemented without even having a wider or broader business perspective. So, but we also knew we had to add measurements to the process, so it's not a spontaneous design. So we base our work on the norm for transportation, bikes and cargo bikes, which is DIN 79010. And we started measuring. We started by buying steel pipes, steel lines, and started designing all the process. So we knew the bike had to be rock solid for the Polish infrastructure. It had to be rock solid, and we chose to make it steel. As steel absorbs more shocks, we also added the front suspension, which is Spinner 300. We were designing the bike knowing the logistic chains are at that very moment a bit broken, as you can imagine. In the COVID situation, we had the network capital, thankfully, that we use extensively, and we still do it by today. I guess some of the people from the audience already know that we call them kind of often just to see whether they can support us with creating the bicycle. So as you can see by the images, everything at the time was very basic. We were discovering every new field that we could be occupied by us. And the first cargo bike was put on its wheels by autumn, still in a basic manner, to be honest. We assembled that and started testing. You can see the images, how it looked at the very beginning. So already equipped with the funk engine, Schwalbe tires, Magura brakes, and of course, unnecessarily some Shimano parts, to be honest. Personally, I used the bike through the winter, making 2,000 kilometers. I was trying to break it. We were fixing it, gathering feedback. I was breaking it again. It was a lot of fun, to be honest, at that time. But then, and it looks exactly the same nowadays. Assembling, verifying, making adjustments on the spot. We learned the hard way how to create a cargo bike from scratch, designing, welding, painting, ordering all the necessary parts. It was a multi-layered process. And I'm kind of convinced now that if we did it from scratch here in Poland for ourselves without having such a broad area of knowledge, to be honest, we can transpose it and make it for other manufacturers in the Western Europe. And yeah, this is how it looks. We had everything on the floor. I started producing by May this year. We're gonna have our first 100 cargo bicycles running on the streets, and we'll see how it goes from there. So once the manufacturing process is over, we are ready to cover a big number of orders, whether they come from Poland or outside the EU. The process is set, nevertheless. So, but the question is, once we did the process, once we set up the process, what's then? What's then? Because somehow for Polish people in the Polish scheme, the cargo bicycles are not there yet. And how do we differentiate from the others? Because there are plenty of cargo bike manufacturers in Europe and outside Europe. Well, the reason is behind is that we do not only make the cargo bicycles, we also sell it directly to B2B, B2C. That's not all. We rent it, we agree and help with the different kind of financial options to the bike. I believe that only by providing the full package to the people, full ecosystem with insurance, with the service, with all the times of things you need, only then we can take people out of the cars and let them see how fun, how effective this way of moving around the city is. So yeah, and maybe this is what we had to do at the very beginning here in Poland, because most of the people in Poland never heard or seen a cargo bicycle. So there is a lot of educational part there. not only in the manufacturing, but also educating people part. So yeah, this is the story. This is the story, a very brief story, how we started 2 years ago, how we now have 100, almost 120 bicycles, how you connect Urwi's name with cargo bicycles in Poland. I hope everyone knows Urwi's now, not only in Poland, but also abroad. So yeah, we did everything from scratch, and I'm more than convinced we can transpose that and help other companies in Europe to do their production here on the spot. So I'm open for questions here or through email, however it works for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pavel. I really love how you applied that build, test, learn cycle of startups to your journey and how you keep improving and keep testing yourself. I think that shows great quality. If you use your product yourself, you wouldn't make something that's not great for yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you so much for the presentation. Everyone, please pop your questions into the chat, and we will keep going back at the end of these sessions. Now, we've learned a bit about the manufacturing process and how cargo bikes are made. I'd love to now deep dive into our first use case for cargo bikes, urban logistics. It's a massive opportunity for cargo bikes to reduce emissions and environmental impact in the city. But in order for more businesses to switch from vans to cargo bikes, companies and public organizations need the right support to manage this transformation. And this is why Urbike and Renault are here. They do exactly that: delivery, advice, training, and materials. Please share with us your story. Let us know how innovation is happening in the space and in your company, and how you are driving the cargo bike industry forward.
Thank you, Anna. So, hi, I'm Renaud Sarrazin, one of the 3 co-founders of Urbike, a cyclo-logistic company based in Brussels, active since 5 years, and which aims this mission of transforming last mile logistics to accelerate the transition to sustainable and livable cities. So as Pavel said, we need cargo bikes. They are a brilliant innovation that can enable this transition to better cities, more sustainable and better logistics. And we all know that there is a very strong potential for cycle logistics to make this shift, this big change. Recent studies have shown that 1 out of 3 deliveries could actually be made by bike in our European cities. But when we started Urbike 5 years ago, 6 years ago from now, we were far from this potential. We saw a lot of explanation, lack of market, lack of infrastructure, lack of cargo bikes, and good cargo bikes sometimes. But the main issue was the fact that it was not that simple to connect cycle logistics to traditional logistics. So when we started Urbike as a cycle logistics company, we really wanted to be an accelerator of change in last mile distribution, and then to think about the transition regarding at logistics distribution model and how hardware and software innovation could serve this mission of the big change on last mile logistics. So one very important key in the story of Urbike was this trailer, the B-sleeve trailer from Fleximodal that has been designed in France, sorry. And when we met Fleximodal and Charles Le Villain, we met this trailer that was the only one in the market that was compatible with the Europallet standards and that can load and transport very easily on a bike a pallet up to 200 kilograms. So it was not only a great solution from a technical point of view, but it was an enabler of innovation regarding last mile distribution. Also, because this trailer has been designed respecting the standard of the Europallet, it can transport not only a pallet, but also a wide range of modules and solutions. And always with the same very simple process to load and transport, so this lift and load system. And so we started designing new distribution models thanks to this solution, because as I said, it's not only a good trailer, it's a way to rethink distribution model and the functional use of space. So we've started a lot of pilot tests with a lot of different customers in order to connect directly cyclogistics to traditional logistics and intermodal logistics and rethink the concept of containerization of goods. So 5 years after, Hurbike is now a big company of 40 people with an approach that is based on the combination of services, last mile delivery services, or the sale of material, and expertise, because we do think that to make this quick and strong change, we have to support the transition thanks to consulting and advices and training. So very quickly, our main activity, the reason why we are a cyclogistics company, is obviously last mile deliveries. So this map shows you the activity of Hurbike during the last 12 months. It proved that we really try to realize the potential of cyclogistics. Today, thanks to a team of 41 people, we've delivered about more than 200,000 deliveries during the last year, and with a success ratio that is very, very high. There is a lot of explanation to this success ratio, but I won't go too much into details during this presentation. But the main, the key is first to train your career and to respect your career. So this is the second big pillar of Hurbike, is that we really try to re-enhance the status of by career and to train our employee and respect them. And the second aspect is due to the management of information and automation. So we rely on hardware innovation that allow us to find new customers, to make very efficient deliveries, and on software innovation that allow us to track and trace the information to connect with our customers, and so on and so on. The second main activities of Hurbike, we know that is Hurbike Consulting. We know that thanks to last mile distribution by bike, we can really enable and realize the potential of cyclogistics, but sometimes it takes time. And to help customers and companies to change their mindsets, making consulting in logistics transition is really crucial for us, because it allows us to show the potential, to conduct feasibility studies, to show them that this is possible. And it's not only shift from vans to cargo bikes. Sometimes you really have to rethink and to design the distribution model. So you have to find the proper model, the proper way to transport your goods in the cities, thanks to micro hubs, thanks to new solutions, and so on and so on. And with this extra expertise, we really can support these companies into the transition. So today we have made a lot of support and mission for big companies such as the Belgian Post or Deleuze, which is a very big retailer in Belgium. And we invest a lot of time in R&D project, because innovation is not only finding the way to deliver some goods in the cities. Sometimes we have to explore new opportunities, such as intermodality, for example, with the rail or with the waterway, which is very promising, but still quite challenging in order of efficient model and efficient connection towards cargo bikes and big boats or trains. And finally, cyclogistics is not only about last mile distribution. And we strongly believe that the potential to transform urban mobility relies not only on logistics companies, but all the organization, all the companies, the public authorities could play a role in this change in urban mobility by integrating cargo bikes to their own use and own activities. So since 3 years, we are the proud partners of the Cargo Bike project in Brussels. that allowed us to train and to support more than 150 companies and 600 professionals into conversion journey to cargo bag. So we've helped, thanks to a very on-the-ground conversion program, policemen companies, construction companies, even journalists and media, big media companies. We help a lot of technical activities to shift to vans or cars to cargo bags, from vans and cars to cargo bags, and a lot of public authorities and cities that has a lot of activities within the cities. The potential is enormous. And the results of these projects are really, really good, showing that we are really at a momentum regarding the shifting to cargo bags. So the potential is very strong, but I guess that we still have a lot to do to enable this potential. To me, I try to think about the future of psychologistics and what we will need, what it will be. It's a tricky question, obviously, but I try to focus on four main dimensions. The first one is linked to the market. There is a strong and even stronger potential to psychologistics than the only parcels and goods that we deliver today. We really think that there is a lot of flows to deliver thanks to cargo bags, a lot of new activity segments and market to identify. And this will be possible thanks to sharing good use case, thanks to showing all the potential of the actual distribution models. The second opportunities, to me, a big one is the connection with intermodality models. It's still a lot of exploration, but I strongly believe that the sustainable last mile distribution model have to rely on connection with waterway and railway. Then obviously we cannot scale up without automation, IT and software innovation. And even if we want to play a big role in the last mile distribution, the psychologistics sector needs to reach better hubs, bigger one, automated and so on, in order to automatize the sorting process and so. And finally, and maybe the most important opportunity for me is linked to the fact that we have to make this bike courier job a professional job. We have to enhance the status of bike courier. We have to design professional training scheme. We have to design and to really develop this job because there is a very strong opportunity to create quality and local jobs in our cities. And yeah, I think that this could be a great accelerator for the psychologistics. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for sharing your vision. I think it's really remarkable how you look beyond simply changing a cargo bike for a van, but it's really a system change and it's a culture change that has to go with it, and how you're tackling that in this holistic way, I think is an amazing approach to do so. But I would like to now move on to our next use case. In addition to business deliveries and psychologistics, cargo bikes are a great mode for every person in the city to get around. And Jaron, since December, when your funding round of around 10 million euros became public, you have been celebrated as one of the leading innovators in the industry. And as a cargo bike sharing company, you make sure that people have access to a cargo bike right when they need it. I know that sharing is tough, especially from an operational point of view. So maybe could you let us in on how you started, how you built your business, and how you are scaling now?
Yes, thank you, Anna, for introducing me, and thank you for having me as one of the speakers. I wanted to tell you that I have a second role next to my role within Cargoroo. I'm also within CIE, the chairman of the cargo bike and psychologistics expert group. And this is an opportunity to say that whoever here is in the audience and is interested in what's happening in the cargo bike and psychologistics fields, if you're not yet a member of CIE, please become a member of CIE, and then you can also participate in the expert group, and we will make sure that your ideas and visions get shared, and that we all do the policy influencing, which CIE is very good at. But now I will move on to my Cargoroo talk. As Anna said, we are the leading company in cargo bike sharing in Europe at the moment. And the idea actually originated because we think that everybody needs a cargo bike at some time, but not everybody needs it all the time. If you look at the pyramid, the sales pyramid of cargo bikes, then you will find some people that need a cargo bike professionally. That's, for example, for delivery, for logistics, but also families. If you have 3 kids and you need to move them around all the time, I can tell you that you should buy a cargo bike yourself and not use a shared cargo bike. But there are many people who use a cargo bike, who need a cargo bike occasionally. For example, to move some stuff, to go shopping. If you have 1 kid, but there are a few kids that want to play and want to come along, you go somewhere and you want to take more than 1 kid. So there are many occasions, and that's where cargo bike sharing comes in. And the main idea of cargo bike sharing is that you enlarge the target group of potential cargo bike users. And that's something which is much more influential than you would think, because by exposing many people to the use of a cargo bike, they start thinking about their way of moving around. And I think for a city, one of the most important changes that comes from the cargo bike industry is that we are used for the last 100 years to watch cities from a car-centric perspective. And that needs to change because we want to keep our cities livable. We want to keep them safe, healthy, and we want to have space for other things beyond cars. And cargo bikes are really very critical to that. And in the beginning, that was not so clear for everybody, but also for many authorities and city authorities, this becomes more and more clear. So we get many demands from cities to start in their city purely because of their desire to move away from cars, or at least reduce the influence of cars. Jacques, maybe the next slide. Because this is also a political process. You may know that the EU has adopted a mission to make 100 cities in Europe climate neutral, and those cities get support from the EU, and they have said they will all be climate neutral by 2030. That means you need to do a lot of things to reach that target. And one of the things you need to work on is changing your mobility within the city. And the best way to do that is through cargo bikes. Lately, I've been always saying in talks that people should compare cargo bikes to, for example, electric cars, and forget about electric cars as a way to become climate neutral, because electric cars are not climate neutral. They use a lot of electricity. Actually, they use 20 to 30 times more electricity per kilometer than a cargo bike. And if you look at the materials needed for an electric car, that's about 30 times more materials for an electric car than you need for an electric cargo bike. And that's very easy to understand, because electric cars or vans, they weigh something like 2,000 kilos or 1,700 kilos for a smaller one. The cargo bikes that we use, they weigh 55 kilos. So you can imagine that it's much easier to move 55 kilos than to move 1,700 kilos. So from a climate perspective, it's a no-brainer that you should replace cars and also electric cars by cargo bike. I was going to tell you how we started. We started about 4 years ago by doing a pilot. Yeah, Jacques, the next slide is okay. I'll tell about this. We started doing a pilot in a small city, and we actually ran into politics and local authorities and policies immediately, because in Amsterdam, for example, it was not allowed to do shared mobility at that time. And we came to speak to many city authorities. And in the beginning, everybody thought that cargo bikes was really a niche. And we had to do a lot of missionary work to convince people that cargo bikes were not a niche, but cargo bikes were actually a very critical component of the transformation towards sustainable mobility. Now we're 4 years further, and well, obviously cargo bikes are not a niche anymore, and they are being recognized much more as a game changer in mobility in cities. So we get many requests from really around the world, from Vancouver, Boston, wherever, Latin America, Bogota, to ask us, why don't you start cargo bike sharing in our city? And we would love to, but the reality is that our business model takes a lot of investments, and we cannot afford to start everywhere at the same time. So we will definitely start growing more, but yeah, we have to focus, and we have to start first and then broaden our perspective. Currently, we are active in about 11 cities, which are a few cities in the Netherlands: Amsterdam, Utrecht, The Hague, Eindhoven, Nijmegen, Arnhem. We are going to start in Rotterdam soon. In Belgium, we are active in Leuven, in Antwerp, and in Mechelen, looking at Brussels also. And in Germany, we started in Berlin last year, and we are looking at more cities this year. And we are actually starting also a pilot in Lyon in a month from now to see how the French market reacts to shared cargo bikes. Maybe some practical explanation. No, this sheet, yeah, thank you. No, the previous sheet. We work with fixed locations, and there's a reason for that. We try to offer our users some kind of reliability on where the bikes are. And we've seen many floating models which cater to a very impulse-driven user pattern. And what we want is to serve users who are living in a neighborhood and want to walk out of their door and walk to the next cargo bike, which they know where it is. So if you look to the map on the right, this is a kind of a grid how we operate in a neighborhood. Those are fixed stations, where on each station you will find one cargo bike. They are usually about 200 to 300 meters apart, so always within 2-3 minutes walk. You pick the cargo bike, you see it. We use no infrastructure on the street, but sometimes we use a paint mark on the street so that you can find the location. Of course, you will see the location in the app also. You open the bike with the app. You take it for wherever you want to go, to the supermarket, or to bring your kids to the sports event, and then you bring it back to the same location. And we found out that about 80% of the trips are back and forth trips, which correspond to our model. And of course, there are also some trips which don't correspond to our model, so we don't serve those trips. For example, going to the train station and then go by train on holiday and return 3 weeks later, that's not supported by our model, which may change in the future, but currently this is how we operate, and it works very well for all kind of users. So our philosophy is we want to be close to the users. We put a lot of energy in finding the right locations, which we do always in consultation with the city. So we don't just place bikes wherever we like. We always consult with the cities and there's usually a license involved where we also need to talk to the cities about where to place the bikes. Of course, our bikes are demand driven, so we do very serious research of where the demand for our bikes is. And that's where we put them, and also that changes. So if we find out that the location doesn't work, we will try to move it to another location. Maybe next slide. Who are the users of our bikes? Actually, the target groups that we always start with are the young families. Those are the very easy targets and easy adopters. People use it for their kids but not only to bring them to school, which many people think that's only a 15 minutes per day trip, but most people use it for family logistics, which is everything from shopping to going to the football and the hockey, to outings, to play dates, etc. But a very other big group of users are students who use it for everything, buying crates of beer, transporting each other. We see many couples on our bikes who really like to go with one person in front, one person in back. Starters, people who don't own cars, which is a large group in many cities, people who need an alternative to a car because they don't own one. And also many self-employed business owners, service-oriented people, people doing hairdressers, flower shops who deliver flowers with our bikes. We do have a special delivery edition of our bikes, which we experiment with now, which has a closed cover, which I don't have a picture of here, but we do that in shopping streets. And what you see is that the target groups of our shared bikes become more and more diverse. And that's why we say that people discover more and more use cases, and they also discover more and more that you don't need a car for everything. You can do without a car, and you can almost always use a cargo bike to do what you do with the car within the city. So our slogan has been for a year now, no car, no problem. And you see that also cities recognize that, and they are very happy about that. Where does the future go? I think we are looking at business models, especially also for smaller cities, because we do need a certain scale to operate profitable. But we do get a lot of questions from smaller cities. Why can't you start in my city? And we would like to facilitate that. Some cities, for example, the city of Leuven, was so enthusiastic. We did a pilot there with the European project, and they continued actually the system with support from the city because they valued it very much. So in general, smaller cities, we can operate with a subsidy. And I think to reach the goal of transport transformation, that also involves subsidies and incentives from the government. So that's maybe a good point to close this introduction.
Awesome. Jaron, thank you so much for sharing this and also addressing the challenges in terms of infrastructure and regulations that you were facing. I already saw a few questions on that in the chat, so I'm sure that will be a topic of discussion once we're going into our Q&A session. But for now, I think what we've learned and what we've seen is that really anyone could and would use a cargo bike. But there's one big elephant in the room left: financing. So last but not least, we need to speak about the money. And Jograd is the leading company for bicycle leasing, making cycling affordable and accessible for everyone. And I'm so happy to introduce Thomas. Could you please give us an overview of the innovation behind the leasing model, how it supports adoption in the cargo bike sector, and where do you see it going?
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you, Jack, Till, Sam, Lee, and Anna. Thank you for organizing this webinar. Jack, I'm not too sure. Can you start with the first slide, please? That's Page number 2, please. Perfect. Thanks a million. Yeah, thank you or good afternoon to everyone. And my name is Thomas Schmidt from Jobrad, and Jobrad is located in the south of Germany. And we are the creator of company bike leasing in a large scale. And as I learned that some of you are founders or working in a startup, and so I would like to introduce our founder of Jobrad, and he's the guy on the right side, the guy with the glasses, Ulrich Prediger, and he started Jobrad in, I think it was 2008, so from scratch, and in a market that barely existed. At the same time, he was lobbying for tax reductions and incentives for bikes leased by companies. And well, after a while, the tax law changed. And so Ulrich Prediger, he created a new company and a new market at the same time. And it has been successful, and we are growing ever since. And so now, 15 years later, we are talking about a billion-sized market, and Jobrad is a clear market leader. And Anna, you gave us some numbers in the beginning, and just to give you a number about the size of financing or leasing in the German cycling market, it is already 38% of all the sales is done by leasing right now. So please remember, 15 years ago, it was a market which wasn't existing, and right now it's already 38%. As I said, as I mentioned, it's a billion on revenue per year. So far, we are in Germany and Austria, and we will enter new markets in the next couple of years. So Jack, would you mind to jump to the next page, please? Well, as I said, we are growing fast, and there's one segment, one product line, which is even growing faster. It is a segment when companies add bicycle to the fleet, like as a handyman, or in messenger services, or in delivery services, or some, if you have a fleet, or if a company has a fleet, or bike rental. This is our fastest growing segment right now. And why? Well, leasing is conserving your liquidity, and instead of having, in case of Germany, it's 7 years, the bicycle on your balance sheet, you just claim the cost for 3 years, and that's it. So this is good for your equity as well. I would like to give you another information, which is, I think, quite useful. In Germany, you have a lot of funding programs, public funding programs for cargo bikes. And very often you can combine this funding program with leasing. So if you're interested in public funding specifically on cargo bikes in Germany and in Austria, please visit the website cargobike.jetzt. Jetzt is a German word for now. So cargobike.jetzt. There's a lot of funding programs. For example, here in North Rhine-Westphalia, in the region of North Rhine-Westphalia, you can get up to 2,100 euro per cargo bike. And as I said, you can combine this 2,100 euro with leasing as well. Jack, would you mind to please hop to the next page, please? So, well, if you are scared a little bit that everything with leasing is very bureaucratic, I have some good news for you, because it's we do have a lot of knowledge and experience, and we are very digital. So the process is quite fast and easy. And I think we are getting more digital in the future soon. And there are two more advantages. For example, if you're very flexible, because you can choose a retail partner, or your cargo bike from a retail partner anywhere in Germany or in Austria. And so you're very flexible, and you can choose your insurance as an option as well. And another thing we do together with one of our premium dealers is a free cargo bike wrapping. So if you're very interested that your cargo bike is something for your branding or as part of your sustainability strategy, I think that's something very nice and very handy. And this company, or this premium dealer, he did it, for example, for one of our customers. And that leads us to the next page, to our practical example. To give you, yeah, perfect, thanks a million. The customer, well, it's a large company and one of the market leader in facility management. And he's doing facility management on large product or production sites. And the company is moving, that's very interesting, I found, is moving now from van to cargo bike. And so he's on the production side of his customer, and he's quicker and he's more flexible. And on the other hand, the investment is much smaller, and so the return on investment is higher. So the facility management company, they went for 10 cargo bikes as a start, and our premium dealer, our partner, he provided the cargo bikes, including special equipment, and the free, or the cargo bike wrapping, free of charge. And additional to that, he did a briefing for the cyclists to learn how to use the cargo bike, and he's doing the regular maintenance. We as Jobrad, we did the financing part. And so the first results is we have a very happy customer, and he has very happy employees, and he has a higher return on investment. And we hope that the facility management company will expand the fleet in the near future. And so if there will be a next webinar in a couple of months, I'm hopefully can provide you some more numbers and results. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your insights on cargo bike leasing. We are now going into the juicy part of the Q&A. So everyone fire up your keyboards, pop in your questions into the chat. I've seen there's already a few questions there, but if there's anything and everything on your chest, feel free to send it to us. Whilst you are doing that, I would love to quickly give the word to Sam from CIE to tell us a little bit more about the lessons learned from the different cargo bike projects CIE and ECF have been supporting and are supporting in the last few years and months.
Great, thanks very much, Anna. Exactly as you said. So one of the projects that CIE has been working on along with ECF and a bunch of other partners in Europe was a project called the City Changer Cargo Bike project. Many of you have probably heard of it. And I just wanted to share a couple of slides with you now just to sort of introduce the project talk you through it just a little bit. But it's really been I think quite a massive ride, the CCC project and CCCB project and its predecessor projects, because this is the third or fourth in a series of European funded projects looking to sort of mainstream cargo bikes for personal and commercial uses. You know, we have here from as the title of this presentation, from niche to mainstream, and that's really been the sort of goal of the project, and I think something that has been achieved. You know, we can see that on the streets on a day-to-day basis, that, you know, there are more and more cargo bikes out there. Very briefly, the project brought together the cities and organizations, institutions that you can see on the map here. So it was very pan-European in its approach, and I think that was, you know, key to assessing how transposable cargo bikes can be in different cultures, different road settings. You know, there are some places here where there's fantastic cycling infrastructure, places where there's very little emphasis put on cycling infrastructure, and obviously cargo bikes are big. So how do you sort of integrate them into the road network if cycling infrastructure isn't, you know, very present? So I think it's been really valuable for, you know, many reasons, but that's been a key approach to the project and key to sort of ensuring the success it's had. In terms of just some of the goals, just very briefly, as I said, the project's goals were to mainstream cargo bikes, reduce congestion and emissions, increase safety, and increase the amount of public space. Create new jobs and business opportunities, which is evident on today's call. In the time period that the project has been active, it's, you know, numerous new businesses have been able to leverage the power of cargo bikes for more efficient deliveries or you know, getting to customers and whatnot. Other areas where the project looked at was in the new funding schemes for cargo bikes. And that not only includes private sector, but also public sector. And I'll come to that very briefly. And then, you know, also cyclogistics and micro hubs, which again was covered in today's presentation. You know, Jaron spoke about it, and one of the, you know, fantastic things about this project is that all the partner cities within the CCCB project were able to put in place a cargo bike sharing and all rental scheme. And as Jaron sort of articulated the use case for a shared cargo bike, yes, if you're going to be transporting children on a day-to-day basis, you probably should be looking at purchasing a cargo bike of your own. But for those odd occasions when you don't need to sort of, it's, you know, going to IKEA or the garden center or something, you know, it's more useful to sort of just have partial ownership and shared use of a cargo bike. So I think that's been an interesting development within the sector, and something that has been taken on board by the project and its partners and has, you know, been quite a success. In terms of cyclogistics, partners within the project have either, you know, worked on or supported 69 micro hubs and have had more than 170, which have had more than 170 cargo bikes in operation. So getting greening last mile logistics is extremely important, as Renaud was talking about. And I think for the future, you know, this is a sector that we just see enormous potential. There's all sorts of innovation, whether it's the trailers, whether it's the cargo bikes themselves. So I think that's really has to be a key area for the future, and something that the project was really able to support during its lifetime. And then in terms of subsidy schemes, we talked about financing, the elephant in the room. Yes, they're big, expensive bikes, but there are many cities within the project were able to put in place subsidy schemes to help individuals and businesses purchase cargo bikes. And our partners at ECF have put together a very useful tool that enables anyone to go and have a look at what incentives are in place for not only cargo bikes, but for e-bikes, for normal sort of analog bikes, if you will. And I think that's also, you know, part of the story that we need to tell here, that there's a role for public sector, in infrastructure, in providing purchase premiums and tax incentives that can all help, again, give a further push to the to greater cargo bike usage for all different sectors of society. And yeah, these are just some of the guides and tools that the project has delivered as part of its outputs. It targets numerous different audiences, whether it's retailers or mayors or looking to transport children or urban planning. So I do encourage people on the call today to have a look a bit further. I will put the address to the web address to the project in the chat following my presentation. So you will have access to it via the chat. And then in terms of legacy, what we are really looking to do, as Jaron mentioned, CIE is working in numerous areas to continue supporting the growth of the cargo bike sector. Renault's mentioned, cargo bike training and cargo bike rider training, and I think that's an area that is only going to have more and more attention, so that we can ensure safety of riders, safety of other road users, and efficiency in deliveries. So that's only an area that's going to professionalize more and more. There's CIE is working on other areas, including standards and regulations, and also total cost of ownership. So it's a big piece of our work that we only see getting bigger as a sector within the cycling industry. So very happy to speak with other people who are on the call today further about membership within CIE and the role you can play within our working groups on this topic. And yes, here is the address for the Cyclogistics website, the website of the City Changer Cargo Bike Project. There is my email address, so feel free to contact me with any further requests or questions that you might have. And yes, thank you. I hope many questions have come in while I've been able to give that short presentation.
Thank you so much, Sam. A lot of things, really cool things happening in the space. I'd love to dive into the Q&A straight away, because I feel like that's the most interactive part of this session, and I'm really excited to get these out. Maybe just a big shout out to Richard Scrace. You're, I think, the record questionee. Just wanted to say that. And I apologize in advance that we are not going to be able to answer all of these questions. So if there is something, burning under your nails, feel free to also get in contact with our panel today directly, maybe via LinkedIn, look them up, drop down their names, and I'm sure they will get back to you. And if not, I've said something completely different, but everyone is saying yes. Awesome. Maybe let's start with the first question, and I would like to give it open to the panel, and maybe just saying it's a big topic that we're going to open, and I'd love for you to keep it short because it's a topic that's always discussed, but that is the main thing everyone thinks about first. So the question is, how do you pressure local governments to improve cycling infrastructure? And maybe you can just give us a snippet of one thing you've seen working when pressuring governments to increase infrastructure. I was going to say, just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Feel free to.
So I'll go first. Great question. We have to explain all the time. We have to show what we do. We organize visits. We see data. We are very transparent, and we really try to explain and to make a lot of pedagogical work. I guess you all understand. With the local government, and actually it works very well. Here in Belgium, we managed to change the traffic regulation to allow larger bike trailer to be used on the road and on the cycle path in Brussels first, and then in the two other regions, just because we explained. We are very open to pilot tests and to experimentation, and they like that because it allows to have a first step and then a second and so on. But yeah, we all know so many things about the potential, about how to do the good things, and sometimes we don't really explain what we know, and that's really crucial.
Hi. I think the main thing is to set examples. You see, for example, that cargo bikes take a bit more space than normal bikes. And that brings the question of where to park them. Many cities say, okay, they're not allowed on a car parking street. Actually, the legal framework in the Netherlands is so that on a car parking space, you can only put a car and not a cargo bike or anything else. But other cities are not so strict. For example, one district in Berlin started to allocate parking spaces for cargo bikes. And that example was followed across the whole city. And you see now more and more a trend that city authorities understand that it's much more smart to put cargo bikes, to allocate parking space for cargo bikes on a car parking spot than on a pavement where people walk, because that creates hinder. And it makes much more sense to replace space for cars by space for cargo bikes. So you see that happening more and more, and by setting the example, you see that it's being followed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Something I saw as well in the questions that seems to be a little bit of a theme is around regulations. So we have regulations in terms of size, we have regulations in terms of components, and maybe Pavel, you can start. There was a question around, in general, should we accept standards and regulations of the ecosystem, and what standards and regulations do you think are the most important? And then maybe giving a specific example of how regulation in terms of the width of the cargo bike has affected your design and how it's affecting the cargo bike market in Poland.
Right, I think it will be very spontaneous answer from me, because we are one of the countries in Europe that doesn't have the cycling strategy, right? And we are going to host in 2025 the Velocity Festival, and we are not there with the cycling strategy. And I guess the width is 90 centimeters is it's already not good for our infrastructure that we have in Poland. Sometimes you have to squeeze with the bicycle, and this is something that constrains people from having a cargo bicycle because it's too narrow. Often it's too narrow yet, and so yeah, we need standards, we need regulations, but most importantly, we need like strategy for them, because we are applying the width, we are applying the norms to create a cargo bicycle, but we should be applying norms also, like we spoke last week on some workshop with CIE. We need individuals know how to ride those bicycles just to be safe. So it's not only manufacturing and asking governments to put infrastructure. We need to teach people how to cycle on those cargo bicycles, because at the very beginning it's kind of obstacle for them to even consider changing a normal bike to cargo bicycle, because the first experience is not very too positive. So we need kind of standards, we need trainings, and to put more people on those bicycles. But something with the regulations, I think in Poland we would just copycat the things that you already have in Germany, France, and Belgium.
Thank you so much, Pavel. Anyone else wants to comment on regulations and standards and what you think would be the next best step for the industry to either implement them or maybe refuse them?
I think there is one advantage in the logistics, and that's the fact that with a cargo bike, you can reach almost everywhere and do your deliveries much faster than with a van. And that makes it important for the regulations to keep allowing that. So currently most cities allow cargo bikes on the cycle path, which is a huge advantage, because cycle paths get much closer to people's front doors than other roads. And there are discussions about changing that for heavier cargo bikes. I think you should give cargo bikes the advantage of easier reach to houses and locations. So keep allowing them on the cycle path.
Yeah, I fully agree with Jaron. We really need a lot of a solution to meet the different needs of the last mile logistics. I speak about all these professional organizations that need cargo bikes. They are very different jobs, very different activities, and they would need certainly very different cargo bikes of different size, shape, and sizes. And we need to support all this sector and this transition. And we need to, I think that standards and regulation are important to be sure that we are going the good way. And we need a vision. We need to know what we can do, what we cannot do. And but it should be a support, not a constraint to me. And for the moment, I think that the sector is very smart in discussing this point and reflecting the potential and how we can grow in a smart way.
Awesome, thank you guys. It's really interesting to see how there needs to be this balance to not stop innovation and kind of keep pushing that segment forward, but there needs to be a basic level of, you know, as you said, where to go and what the spaces we can operate in. Another really interesting topic I've seen in the questions is maintenance. So I would love to start maybe with all of you just commenting very quickly on what role does maintenance play in your business models and in your companies, and then also commenting on maybe how much resources does it take and how do you deal with things like vandalism, especially when it's in the business cases or in the shared cases.
I will tell you briefly how it works with us. If anyone rents the bicycle, the maintenance system is already put in. So the person pays for the bicycles, but the service is included within it. So the person doesn't have to pay additionally for the service. It's something that we built in the bicycle so people can take it. With the vandalism, with the robbery, the insurance is built in. So whether you want it or not, you have the insurance and you have the coverage for the bicycle that is stalled or vandalized. So both things are over there, whether you want them or not. But it gives you like a full package of the bicycle. Then you can consider it's worth buying or renting.
Maybe Jaron, you wanna go next. There was a specific question of how many bikes are maintained by one maintenance person.
Yes, that's an interesting question. We have first line maintenance and second line maintenance. We have battery swappers that swap batteries for our bikes, and they do the first line maintenance. So they check every bike every few days where they come along and to change the battery. They also look at the tire pressure. They look whether the brakes still work. There are many small things like broken bells, broken lights, saddle which is not fixed, which can be done by the first maintenance, which are the battery swappers. If something's really broken, then it gets to the second line maintenance, which are more specialized bike mechanics. They do routes on the basis of tickets and priorities. So it's a bit difficult to say how many mechanics you need for one bike. We have outsourced second line maintenance in several cities to different maintenance companies. They usually spend, I think they do about 10 tickets per day when there's really something broken. And on top of that, there's also scheduled maintenance. So we do every 1,000 kilometers, there is a scheduled maintenance where everything's being checked and some parts are being replaced, like tires are replaced on a regular basis, belts, things like that. Hope that's an answer.
Thank you so much. Renaud, do you want to comment on whether you do your own?
At your bike, half of the fleet, so 25 bikes, are our company property. And we have a part-time mechanic for the maintenance and repair. So 25 bikes plus at least the same amount of traders. and the other half of the fleet is on leasing, a bit less than the half actually, thanks to Docker Mobility, a Dutch company, a Dutch brand, and it comes with a maintenance service. So it's very convenient because we have extra bikes and an extra maintenance service. But the important thing is that we have significantly reduced the maintenance costs by training our couriers in detecting something wrong on the bike. They don't have to maintain, some of them do, but they can detect, okay, there is a problem, I won't use the bike, and it allows to reduce a lot the cost and the time of the mechanics after.
Can I add one thing? Because I think this is actually a very interesting question. The main improvement which I think is needed in the cargo bike industry is in terms of maintenance and reliability. And that's because the cargo bikes are really behind compared to cars in terms of maintenance and reliability. And that's something where innovation is still very much needed. And there's a simple fact that a car needs only maintenance once in 20,000 kilometers, and a cargo bike needs maintenance every 1,000 kilometers. And yeah, that's a gap we need to bridge, because otherwise there will be a disadvantage for cargo bikes in terms of costs and reliability. And of course, cars exist already for 100 years. Many billions have been spent in innovation, and that money needs to be spent also on cargo bikes.
I actually, and for this topic as well, so this kind of bleeds into the second market and the value of cargo bikes once they've been used. And Thomas, that was a really interesting question for you, but we can then open it up to the panel as well. What is your experience of the residual value of commercially used cargo bikes? How many years are they used by the first user? And if there is there a market for these types of vehicles?
Very good question, and thanks for that. I will try to provide you numbers in the next couple of days. Right now, the leasing contract is running 3 years. So after 3 years, we do have a own department which is reselling the bicycles, and I know that in the last 2 years we've been on the topper area of the range, so we can resell them for quite a high value of money. But I do not have the numbers right now, and I will provide it to you.
Thank you. Maybe also some experience from the group. Do you have a general idea how long the bikes last, / when would be a point to resell, and how much would they be worth, as maybe as a percentage, if you have a feeling on that? If not, very happy to get those numbers and share them.
We calculate with a minimum 5-year lifetime for the bikes, and actually we try to treat them like being perpetual for perpetual use. So we always maintain and replace parts that are broken. We know from our supplier of our current bikes, Urban Arrow, that they buy back bikes from 6 years old, and they remanufacture them and sell them back into the market. So the main parts of the bikes have a very long lifetime, and there are some parts which need to be replaced, like belts and things like that. But cargo bikes are rather solid.
Yeah, the main issue is the battery life and the motorization. So if we can change it easily, it's good. and it would be actually very interesting to design cargo bikes when you can change motorization from years and years. Then you can adapt to the evolution of the market on that part, because the frame are quite robust.
Awesome. Speaking about motorization, I've seen questions around the 25 km/h limit. Maybe a very quick feel from the group. do you think it's enough for cargo bikes to have this limit on motorization? Or how do you, what needs to happen in order to have a dynamic limit of e-assist that is co-defined by municipalities, residents, and users? I know it's been a widely discussed question.
For our use cases, which is people who use them sometimes, 25 is enough. So we have no, for our users, we have no desire that it should be higher. Could be for different use cases.
In last mile logistics, to me, it's way enough too. We have an average speed of 17 kilometers per hour, including stops. So it's very, very fast. In terms of average speed, a van is less than 11 kilometers in Brussels on average. So we don't need to go that fast. And there is some safety related aspects. If we want to share the cycle path, we don't want a big difference of speed between us and the other cyclists. In road safety, we know that we really have to limit the difference of weight and speed. It's kinetic energy. So 25 is actually very good. And the 30-kilometer cities are becoming the new standard. And then 25 kilometers for the moment seems to be a good.
I would just add to that, in Poland, I would say long john type cargo bicycles are good for 25 kilometers. We're not there yet. Three-wheelers are about 15 kilometers, and it's enough for the companies that buy them. So I think 25 for the congested cities is still okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to dive into the last question before the wrap up. And maybe besides the technical standards and regulatory developments, how can we support the perception of cargo bikes so that they're synonymous, or so that they demonstrate the attitude, statement, and lifestyle and are perceived as cool, desirable, and the sustainable choice?
I think the main way to do is to have more and more people try them out and use them, even if it's occasionally. So many people know that this is a solution for most situations where you need to move people or goods. So it's a universal replacement for cars in cities.
Yeah, I fully agree. Actually, when you try a cargo bike for the first time with a good trainer that tell you that you don't have to look at the front wheel, it's so fun to use and quite easy to handle and so on. And then, yeah, I think that we have to create this culture to show the potential, to organize test ride session. You mentioned Thomas cargo bike yet. They made so many test sessions all across Germany, and it was such an inspiration for this cargo bike project in Brussels. And the results are there. When you organize test ride, when you organize training, when the people can touch and try the cargo bike, it's hard not to want to keep it. So yeah, we really have to create this culture. And with the families, with older people, with professionals, with logistic companies, the potential is so big. Yeah, there is almost no limit for the use of cargo bikes.
May I add two informations or two things? On the one hand side, if I look into the market, what happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years, you have so many different cargo bikes. So it is, everyone can find a suitable or different options on a suitable cargo bike. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I think we have increasing numbers, and that means there will be some cargo bikes you can produce much cheaper because you produce them on a much larger scale, and that helps you to save money. And in a competitive market, you can lower the price and find new target groups. So I'm very optimistic that the great cargo bike future, it is in front of us. So yeah, I'm looking forward, and good luck to everyone. And I would like to see much more cargo bikes than cars.
Now that's what I call a finishing word from Thomas. Thank you everyone for being here today. I would like to challenge everyone in the audience to this weekend, grab a friend, ideally someone who hasn't tried a cargo bike before, try a shared service, go to your local dealer, just, you know, give it a shot. And I promise you won't be disappointed. And with that, I would like to hand over back to Till for the wrap up and ending word.
Thank you, Anna, for the nice very, very nice moderation, and for the very interesting discussion. It was great to see the variety of all the participants have been able to put their input to topics like regulations, safety. I really much liked the idea of creating a standard job profile for bike couriers to up-level the value and also the, how do you say that, the perception of a bike courier in the public. I think I got the feeling that we are about to create a movement for sustainable transport, last mile logistics. Fun, we learned, is a very important part. I think out of my experience, when I talk with people who are not so much familiar with the bike industry, one thing is, oh, cargo bike, oh, is that too heavy? I'm afraid to drive. So you could be very lucky to have a very good trainer. That is great. Thanks everyone for participating. Thanks the speakers for donating their time and their wisdom. There will be, of course, many more activities going on in the next months. We will be having from parts from CIE. There will be the CIE summit in Brussels, which is already sold out the tickets. I have heard there was some problem with the sound. Eventually, there was an email circled around. There will be a recording available. Of course, please share that recording to other people, because I've seen people commenting on LinkedIn that the registration is closed. So feel free to share it. We will also share it on LinkedIn, the recording. Reach out to us. If you have more questions, reach out to Sam for the Cargo Bike City Changer project. Yes, and stay tuned for the next innovation webinar, which will probably be in the second quarter of this year. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, for joining. Thanks Anna, thanks the speakers, and have a great day. And let's be a role model and ride a cargo bike this weekend. Great, thank you for coming.